Wi-Fi Sheep would like to say a huge thank you to all of you that kindly support us. Help us continue to bring new videos like this. Join patreon.com/Wi-Fi Sheep from just $1 a month. Hello and a warm welcome back to youtube.com/Wi-Fi Sheep with me, Tom. Before we get started, I have one or two things I want to share with you, and that'll be at the end of this video. So do make sure you stick around to the very end. So spring is in the air and I've been thinking about doing something of a clear out. I'm sure many of you can relate to just the sheer amount of stuff you collect doing retro computing and electronics. One area I really do need to look at is the collection of PC and Mac systems that clutter the place. I'm also in need of a working bridge PC. That's a machine old enough to read and write floppy disks for older systems, but new enough to read USB data sticks and go online if needs be. PCs from around the early to mid 2000s fit this spec, and hence I've been loath to move any of the items I have on. So today I thought we'd take a look at a mid 2000s eMachines x86 tower donated to me by an old school friend and see if we can get it running. This video is sponsored by PCBWay.com, offering services such as 3D printing, injection moulding, CNC machine tooling, sheet metal fabrication, and of course turnkey PCB manufacturing. Take a look at PCBWay.com/projects and all the amazing things people are creating with PCBWay's wide range of production tools and services. So don't miss out. Sign up for your free account today at PCBWay.com. Details and links are in the description. This is a PC x86 eMachines. It's a 4260, and I know that because it says it right there on the label. This basically was given to me by an old school friend. She said she didn't want it and said, did I want it? Now, normally I'm kind of reluctant to collect too much junk. And to be honest with you, this machine has been sitting around for the best part of nearly 3 years with me. Not really done anything with it. And I was thinking about scrapping it. But when I had another look inside, because I've already been inside it a couple of times, I realised it has a few features that are quite attractive, especially if you're a retro computer enthusiast. Mainly, it has a floppy controller on the motherboard, meaning alongside USB, it makes the perfect bridge machine, allowing for the copying and creation of vintage floppy disks for other systems. Now, I had a machine that did this and it fried itself, and we tried to build it with another skip PC and I've had issues with that, so I was sort of hoping that maybe this one might make quite a good bridge machine, but it is bulky and it's pretty ugly and I don't think it's anything particularly special. eMachines were a budget range of low-end computers. This one, for example, is a Intel Celeron D, most of the clock speed 3.06 gigahertz, so it's a respectable clock speed, and came originally with 512. I think it's had an upgrade. It might have just over a gig of RAM in it, but the disk drive doesn't work, optical drive doesn't work, and on a request of my friend, she asked me to take the hard drive out, obviously before I took the machine away. So there's no personal data. It also means there's no Windows on it. So it will boot without a hard drive or Windows. It is possible. PCs, or virtual PCs, have a BIOS on board that allows them to boot a certain element of something from ROM. So what I thought we might do today is just take a look inside, see what the machine spec is again, see if everything works, and then we might try hooking up a new optical drive and a hard disk and seeing if we can install Windows. So let me just show you these I grabbed from my spares pile. So this is a DVD CD writer reader drive, and this came from, it's Apple marked, it came from a scrap G5 titanium tower. There was a couple of titanium towers that were floating around for an office a few years ago. The machines actually had to be scrapped. There was a legal covenant on them as long as they had to go for scrap, but I was able to take a lot of the bits off them and I rescued a lot of the optical drives. I also have a IDE, an older style IDE hard drive. It's just, there we go. So you can see it's the old pinout and Molex standard. It's not the newer SATA drives. Again, this is Apple branded. It's quite small at 12 gig. It's not a huge drive. So it's a Quantum, I think it might be Seagate actually. But basically, hopefully these will work all right. 12 gig, I know that doesn't sound like a huge amount in this day and age. It isn't, but a bridge machine of this era, kind of mid-2000s, it's probably about right. And I really want to use XP, which is kind of lightweight by today's standards. So we'll use these so we can actually read discs and we can write to something. If this works out, I should probably replace the hard drive with something a little bit more solid state. So a CF or SD card IDE device. You can get many of them online. But for now, for testing, we'll use a physical moving part, motor-driven platter hard disk, and we'll see how we go. So PCs of this era, pretty generic. I've still got it plugged into the monitor on the back, but I'll just show you on the back. You can see, let's take the VGA out. By the way, you probably see I've got a 4.3 Hewlett-Packard display, which we'll be testing with. So what I like about these is you've got PS2 protocol for keyboard and mouse, USB, you've got serial interface, power interface for printer, more USB. If I do scrap the machine still, we may be able to extract another board and take this with us. It has got its Windows XP product key on it. Don't think the product key is actually going to work, in all honesty. I find a lot of times the key doesn't work with a generic version because it's sort of tied in with the manufacturer, but we'll see if that works. And obviously we've got the power supply at the top and a lot of dust. Anyway, taking apart, you've got these screws on the side. Panel comes off quite easy. That's inside, which is nice and dusty. You see here, got this huge fan assembly on top of the heatsink, on top of the Celeron D processor. That's down there. If I show you, down here is actually a dial-up modem. I thought it was another network card. It isn't. It's a dial-up 56k telephone modem. Which we don't need. There's nothing else in any of the other PCI slots. The video is done off the main motherboard. There's no graphic accelerator card in this as far as I'm aware. Again, I don't intend on running it for high-end gaming, so it's not really going to be a problem. And everything on there looks all right. Just show you from underneath here, I've taken the coin battery out because those tend to leak. And the last thing I want with this board is leaking damage to the PCBs. That's happened far too often with other systems. So it hasn't got a CMOS. Well, it has got a CMOS, but it can't save any settings, so it'll be a little bit grumpy when it tries to boot up. But yeah, it looks all there. It's all relatively complete. So what we'll do now is we'll put some VGA video in. So it's VGA out on these machines. Again, I think this is kind of circa, I can't find a date on it as such, but I'm going to guess about 2004, 2005, that kind of era. Now we've got kettle lead for some power. And then I have, I can get this on camera, I actually have here a PS2 PC keyboard I picked up at a charity store for £2.50. Because unless you're like us, no one wants the PS2 protocol anymore. But let's pop that in. There we go. You could use a USB keyboard. I'm just going to use this PS2 keyboard. And yeah, we should be ready to go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to power up the machine. I'm not going to try running a capture card for it. I'm just going to point the camera at the screen and you can see what it does when I power up. I remember why I hate doing optical screen captures now, because you always get a glare on the screen. Anyway, let's see what happens. Hopefully it'll be good enough for you to see what's going on. So I'm going to power up, and immediately, because this machine has no CMOS in it, it's going to, or CMOS battery rather, it's going to go a little bit nuts. Listen to this roar. Yeah. There we go, when it sort of settles down. So again, I'll just remind you, there's no hard drive, no operating system, and as you'd expect, it says the BIOS has failed, and that's fine. We were kind of expecting that anyway. So it forces us through to F4 into the BIOS setup, which is pretty standard across most PCs of this era, actually. Yeah, there's not a lot we can do. It ain't going to remember anything, so we'll just discard, exit discarding changes. We didn't make anything. Of course, the camera now goes out of focus. There we are. Right. So what it's doing now is it's trying to find an operating system. Yeah. Boot and select proper boot device, or insert media in selected boot. Right, yeah. So that's to be expected. There is no operating system. There's no hard drive attached. There's no media of any kind attached to the machine. So that's as far as you get. So I said in the introduction to this video, what I want to do is test the machine out, see if it's viable and works. I still intend to scrap the case, but I would like to lift the bulk of the PC out of the case if it works. To do that, we are going to need to put an operating system on. The OS I want to use is Windows XP, and there's a particular reason why I want to use XP and not a Linux or a newer Windows. But for that to work, I'm going to need an optical drive to load some media from, and we're going to need a hard drive to save the media too. So all the infrastructure and cabling for that is already in the machine, so it's just a case of remembering to put the correct ribbon onto it. So these are 40 pin. And all I'm going to do, it's not pretty, is I'm just going to hang these out the back of the machine or the side of the machine. The tower by way you can see is actually lying flat on its side. Now with the hard disk, I'm just going to put a mouse mat down and just show you that here, so I don't short anything on the side of the case. The optical drive is going to be less of an issue, and again we can just plug that in. By the way, with twin IDE leads like this, you've got a slave and a master. Unless you've got a duplicate drive, you want to put the master plug in. Again, just pop some power in. Okay. So as horrendously haphazard as that looks, it should be okay. I might have to move my light in a minute so I can actually open the CD drawer. Now, operating systems, slight issue of XP is that a lot of the official disks that don't have keys will work and then they'll expire, and you need to put serial key in. Even if you have a valid key, if it then can't connect to Microsoft servers, and bear in mind XP is no longer officially supported, if it can't connect to server, it can't authenticate, which means it expires anyway, which kind of renders a lot of XP useless. Now, there are a few versions of XP floating around that are, what can I say, less than official, but apparently claim to have cracks in them, which means that they don't need activating, or they should just work. So I've downloaded one of those. I'm not going to say where I got it from, but just I've downloaded one. That's all you need to know. And it's on. I burnt a CD, and we'll put the CD in the drive, and we'll see if we can install Windows. It's a copy of Windows XP Service Pack 3 Professional 32-bit edition, which is all we need for this. Okay, so I've got my boot disk here that we're going to try, and let's just power back up. A bit of a delay, and see if the optical drive is going to talk. Yes, it is. Put the boot media in. And let's see what that does on screen. Oh, don't you just miss the deafening hum of an old PC. Anyway, so here we are. We're booted, so we need to go into BIOS again, and we'll just say exit. And it should now try and find the boot media. Again, I do need to sort out a battery for this, but let's just see if this works. and put a mouse in. Doesn't matter, we don't need a mouse at the minute. I can hear the drive spinning up. There is Windows set up. So just down the bottom here you can see it's just checking to see what the system actually is. I think we'll come back when it's done. It only took a few moments, and you can see here it's actually found the hard drive at 12,394 megabytes or 12 gig, and that is the hard drive which we'll use. So it's probably been zeroed, nothing on it. So we'll what we're going to use? We'll use NTFS, and that's now going to format the hard drive. It's going to create a new 12 gig partition for us, and hopefully it will actually install Windows on that. We'll come back in a moment when that's done. So this is a little while later. The machine has just done a reboot, and I did just see the Windows XP boot screen, and it's just finishing some installation now. So we're running from the CD, but this is now running mainly off the hard disk. So it's a setup in 39 minutes. So I'm sure you've probably already seen the Windows XP setup numerous times before and probably don't need to see it again. So I'm going to let this run. I'll do the setup, and hopefully the next edit cut you'll see will be us sitting hopefully at a Windows XP desktop. Okay, so I'm adjusting your computer. Okay, that's an interesting use of a 16 colours there. That's very curious, never mind. Okay. I was looking at it earlier during the installation. I was thinking, Windows XP isn't as DOS-like as that. It's almost sort of EGA type graphics. Interesting how we haven't, I don't think we've had to go for a welcome screen. We might just go straight through to a desktop, we'll see. I can't remember with Windows XP Professional. Oh blimey, look at that. Okay, yeah, we know about that, don't worry. Yes, we know. Still, that does seem to be working okay. And just give me display. Where is it on this? Themes, appearance, settings, there we are. 4-bit colour. Is that all we can manage? Okay, so we might need to do a little bit of setting up, see if we can get a better VGA save. I need to, okay. See if I can find a slightly better driver. But fundamentally, that is XP up and running, and yeah, it doesn't need a serial key or wants to authenticate, so it should just run now. So that in itself is extremely useful. Okay, so I have found what I think are some drivers, some Intel base graphics drivers. I've installed them via flash memory stick. It's a .exe installer. We're just doing a reset now, and we'll have a look and see if that's worked. splash screen or the boot screen doesn't look any different, but then it looked fine before. So when we get into desktop mode, we'll see. Ah. Oh, that looks better. I think that's worked. That looks a lot better. Let's just log in. Oh yes, excellent. We can see the very familiar default Windows XP Hill, and yeah, there's a list of drivers here that I've installed, and I did a quick search online. I found a couple of sites, put the model number in, a couple of sites that tell you what the what you actually need, and yeah. So how fast this machine is going to be is another matter. Those are just Unix files from the Mac. Just delete those. But yes, it was this installer here, this Win2K XP E111.exe that did the trick, and I've got some drivers for sound and things like that, and network, because I've got to have to manually set up all the drivers for this so it can find all the bits of hardware for the machine. But once we've done that, hopefully this should be okay. I guess the next thing will be just to see how well this machine's going to run. So look at system information. If this machine's going to do what I need it to do. It only needs to really be a bridge machine. We're not going to go online with it. So here's the system information. Weirdly, it's instead of using C drive, it's put my directories. If I go back to my computer, H drive instead of C, which is a bit weird, but alright. And as you saw earlier, we set the filing system up as NTFS. Yeah, we've kind of almost used a quarter up just with Windows, so this is going to be a very small hard drive. We may have to look at, before we go any further, finding a bigger hard drive for it. But we'll see how we go. Okay, so a really good start. Fantastic to get a working copy of Windows XP that's likely to keep working, hopefully. And I should be able to use the same on other PCs as well. Just need to remember to label up the hard drive so I know it's got XP on it. And I guess next time we'll give the insides a good clean, something I wasn't going to do until I knew this was going to be a viable machine. If you've enjoyed this video and want to help support the channel, there are now a number of ways you can, such as becoming a Patreon or YouTube channel member, such as Ralph Braun, who has done just that and joined us on Patreon. You can join too and help support me and this channel by joining as a YouTube channel member, tiers and details on screen now, or alternatively via Patreon at patreon.com/Wi-Fi Sheep. Also new is Amazon affiliates. If you buy anything from Amazon, you can now also help us here at Wi-Fi Sheep by clicking our affiliate link in the description to this video, which will take you to Amazon. From there, you can browse a selected list of cool items I've personally chosen, or search for anything else on the normal site. It doesn't have to be computer or tech related. It won't cost you any more, but for every item you purchase via our link, Amazon gives us a small tip, which helps to fund and support the channel. So do go and take a look and bookmark the link and help support independent content creation here on Wi-Fi Sheep. And if not done so already, please do consider liking and subscribing. And as always, thank you for your company, and I hope to see you real soon right here on the channel. Until next time, bye for now.